Hi everyone, Richard here from Calvin Wazoo, bringing you another video. And I know there's a segment of my audience who very much enjoys my videos about car seat headrest, and there have been some saying, "Oh, when are you gonna do Teens of Denial? Teens of Denial?" I'm working on that. Um, Formulating my thoughts and all that on that release is taking a bit longer than I thought the preparation would, but not too much longer. I'll be having that debut pretty soon. But for today, I am doing this sort of contest thread, whatever, for the fellow at Momma's Records. So that's the name of the channel, and I'll have a link in the down under. But he's celebrating broaching the 200 subscriber mark. And so he's celebrating that. And he is got a very simple contest, just a few questions, but it's all kind of related to the number 2 in some respect. And it's pretty interesting. And plus it also requests that you give a shout out to some channels that are below 200 subscribers, that need some love because, encouragement, and they have good channels. I've been watching some of these videos, and I have already found channels that have really sparked some interest, and I have subscribed to them. So let's get started here. The first question or first item is to show an album that has a perfect side 2. And for me, it immediately came to mind. And that is this one, The Tubes, the eponymous album. In fact, side 1 is good on this record. But side 2, this is the back cover. I often will pull this record out to listen to only side 2 because it is that good. It is really a solid side with no throwaways, and the songs just go from one to the other, just in amazingly smooth and logical and musical way. So, side 2 opens up with Mondo Bondage. Mondo Bondage, been tied up for so long, there's no escaping it. Just great song. And then we come to the song What Do You Want From Life, which ends with this, well, you can't have that, but if you're an American citizen, you are entitled to, and then it goes through this crazy list of items. But what do you want from life? Just killer song. But then comes the song Boy Crazy, which is just, again, the intensity and the music and the orchestration is just so great. And then the classic closer, White Punks on Dope. God, this is seriously the side 2 to this album. I live in a high-rise apartment, so I cannot play it through my speakers because I have to crank it loud. So I listen to it on headphones because you gotta hear it loud. So a record with a perfect side 2, man, this is the album. Excuse me. It was released in 1975. So, but I didn't learn about the record until late 70s. When a roommate, when I was living in Arizona, showed it to me. All right. Going to the next one, a second album that avoids the sophomore slump. So, there's a lot of great examples out there. In fact, I can remember listening to a radio show on NPR where that was the theme of the entire show. So, they would talk about records like Led Zeppelin 2 or something like Electric Ladyland or something like one that's, this Candio by the Cars. There are lots of examples of this, really strong, for the Police, Outlandos the More, being followed by, why can't I think of that? There was that Regatta de Blanc, that's it. All right. Lots of examples. I don't know if this really kind of, it's a sophomore release by this band, but the thing is, the band disbanded after their second release. And it's this album here. This is Spiderland by Slint. And so just, there's, so it's just a quarry, where they would go swimming. Here they are recreating that famous photo of the Beatles, in the swimming pool. But Spiderland is an amazingly intense and introspective album that for many, some people disagree with this, but it sort of defined in some respects the genre of math rock. And because you've got Britt Walford, who is the drummer in the band, and he, and math rock tends to be driven very much about by, here's some more, photos of them from the inside of with the insert. Yeah, it's the lore behind this album is also quite incredible, and you should check it's on YouTube. I've done a review on this album, although I did make a mistake with my comments about the songs "Washer" and "For Dinner." I think I mixed them up a little bit, my thoughts. I thought one was the other or whatever. But anyway, there is the Breadcrumb Trail, which was this documentary that, and in fact, when I bought this, it came with a DVD with that documentary, but the documentary can be found on YouTube. And the thing is, Tweez was their debut album, which was pretty good, but then this was released next, and again, it just created this cult following around the band because the recording allegedly, and Britt Walford mentions this in the documentary, but for the song "Good Morning Captain," which is their signature song in some respects, which is based on a poem, very famous poem that has some very famous lines that get used quite a bit, for general, like the albatross around your neck kind of thing comes from the poem. But anyway, rambling away, I had some coffee and then I had a butterscotch scone, so I'm kind of amped up on carbs right now, carbs and caffeine. So anyway, the recording was so intense with the vocals that and Britt Walford, is the drummer, but the gosh, I'm drawing a blank here on who Brit's, like best friend Buddy, in the band. Anyway, he was doing the vocals, and at the end of the song, he is singing so forcefully, bringing out this guttural cry, that after he was done, he vomited because of the intensity of the vocals in that, and then he, shortly afterward checked himself into a psychiatric hospital. So they had this album, and then they never toured for it because the band disbanded. But it was their second album, and it definitely did not succumb to what is known as the sophomore slump. And it's just gradually over the years developed this cult following. But yeah, I'll have a link to that video in the Down Under as well. I got to remember to have these links so I don't remember that, or so I don't forget it. So yeah, neat. I'll write that down. Link. All right. So now a great double album. This video is already taking too long. Great double album is this one, Twin Fantasy by Car Seat Headrest. I also have a link to a video I did about this. It'll have a lot more detail, but I tell you, this as a concept album and as an album that is carried by a singular theme throughout, this is a magnificent recording and artistic accomplishment. It is an album that, while its overall theme, is primarily focused around, or not focused around, it would be focused on, but it's built around a same-sex relationship. The appeal about relationships, I believe, is universal, and has some just really powerful visuals with the lyrics. There's like the line, the ocean washed over your grave, the ocean washed open your grave. The whole notion of, so many things that could be going on with that line, but the notion of, something being ended, but it always keeps coming back in some form or another, but also because of some other references and the people involved, having to deal with, of putting something about yourself behind you, but at the same time, it comes back, it just, Car Seat Headrest certainly is, and Will Toledo is certainly one of my number one bands and musical artists that, I am just so super, super enthusiastic about, because, and it's just pop music, there's, and that's fine, and in some cases it's lo-fi pop music, but it's perfectly fine because, even that is so brilliantly constructed. Just such great stuff. I'm really looking forward to them starting to tour again so that I can see them. I have not watched them. So those are the questions about records. The last item is, give a shout out to some other channels that have 200, less than 200 subscribers. And so there's a couple I want to mention. And one is Craig's Vinyl Plethora. They'll be linked down under. He's got a very, very eclectic collection. And what I have found really enjoyable when he's talking about records, and picking a few from, a section of his collection, is not only the often wide variety of the selections that he pulls, but the very personal stories that he tells about his connection, his relationship with that album. I just really love the personal connection, the personal touch that he provides to those. So yeah, be sure you check that out. Craig's, excuse me, not Greg, Craig's Vinyl Plethora. And then another one is Danny at the channel HipHops. Again, he's fellow VCer, from Chicago, where I'm from. And he's got this very different approach in which he will talk about an album that he has selected, and then he also talks about a beer. So he talks about, the beer. He could be tasting it for the first time, its flavor profile, etc., etc. Quite interesting because I do enjoy various beers, IPAs, and other local brews, microbrews. So there's that aspect I enjoy about his channel, and also the fact that he talks about a lot of music I am unfamiliar with. And so it is opening, my eyes and ears to a lot of new material that I find really quite excellent. And then I'm also going to throw another one in there, and that's Janne at Pops and Clicks. He's from Sweden. He's been mentioned as, an example of someone with less than 200 by some other entries in this contest. Again, what I really like about his channel in particular is that other perspective of bands that we may here in the U.S. may not hear about, except for people in other places in Europe or wherever who are who talk about these bands. Some of them I'm familiar with and have heard of, but he again provides his perspective on many of these bands, and also because there's this I guess you would call it a style or genre, the black metal, death metal kind of thing, not goth metal, but there's these other variants of metal that he talks about from time to time that I find really super interesting, in seeing some connections again between different bands, much the same way we talk about connections of North American bands or American bands. But we get in these close-minded silos where we think that all music revolves around the United States or Great Britain, very Anglo-centric thinking. And there's just such this wide world of music out there. So I'll have links to all these channels. We're going to have a lot of links down in the Down Under for this. So remember, the contest, the channel offering the contest is Momma's Records. Please check it out. And as always, remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.